belong in a museum.
Well, video games do. But virtual worlds, on the other hand, don't. And here's my video argument for why virtual worlds don't belong in a museum. Video game preservation has existed since the dawn of video games, and the desire to keep a piece of collective history alive has existed since way before video games. Preservation for video games usually comes forth in two major forms: emulation, where a software can emulate an older console and thus play previous ROMs and games. Then you have migration or porting, where old games are brought to newer systems. Emulation examples would be things such as Project 64 playing Nintendo 64 games. And a port is like StarCraft on the Nintendo 64, which I had, by the way. These two methods can serve as great ways to introduce a new audience to an old game or an old idea. Sometimes these ideas aren't really old either. Sometimes they're still new for the time. These aren't the only ways being used, however, as many games and virtual worlds feature fan-made servers that utilize reverse-engineered source code, as no source code or efforts to preserve are being put forth by the publishers or developers in that case, similar to emulation, but not quite the same thing. Something that's legal to do in other countries, other than the US I should say, but normal preservation methods such as emulation and porting just can't effectively apply to virtual worlds, and that's kind of why you see things like reverse engineering. Thank you to Naraka Bladepoint for sponsoring this video. Naraka Bladepoint, a 60-player third-person RPG action combat battle royale style game out on PC and Xbox.
Free on Xbox Game Pass, with a free weekend to come August 18th to the 22nd on Steam and Epic Games Store. There's also a 50% off discount August 18th to the 29th on Steam, Epic, and Xbox. Naraka has pioneered a unique combination of melee weapons and hero skills in the battle royale genre, offering limitless combat possibilities. Unlike some random easy shootout, it's necessary to predict your enemy's next move and use the corresponding attacks to counter them. The key to winning is predicting your enemy's attacks. There's a new map that's been added to Naraka, that's Holoroth, in the Herald Trial mode. The new map has greatly improved combat and interactive experiences therein, with varied terrain to enhance the rich battle space, as well as a new weather system for more realistic map experiences, and traps for more interactive fun, all the while you're experiencing unparalleled visual enjoyment. The next best part about Naraka Bladepoint is the customization. You can customize your character's face in nearly every way imaginable. Check the link in the description or the pinned comment for more information on how to play Naraka Bladepoint. Comment on what impressed you about the game as well, and the person with the most likes in 3 days will receive a $50 Amazon gift card, courtesy of Naraka Bladepoint. Thank you to Naraka Bladepoint for sponsoring this video. Back to the video Editorial Detectives. At the moment, it's only legal to host such a server in a museum by a select few people in the US, which is where all of this DMCA, trademark, copyright law stuff really applies. So if you're not from there and most of the servers being hosted aren't being hosted in the US, then you can kind of ignore this stuff. Kind of. The problem with such is regarding virtual worlds, aka worlds where imagination meets reality. MMOs like WoW and RuneScape, or ORPGs like PSO or Guild Wars, can't function properly in a museum, which is all the latest legislation and law is allowing them to do. While there have been some new major additions to copyright law and DMCA video game law, at the moment, things are still inconclusive. While the newest additions allow for emulated servers to run, that's only within the museum itself, and their emulated rules still state that you need an original copy as well. So while these additions are helpful, many virtual worlds are still in danger of losing their lives and places in history because these laws aren't conclusive enough. This is ludicrous to me, because when you check the back of a game box on any virtual world, you will see it explicitly state that you need an internet access to play. This means that in a sense they're also making a contract with you to agree to keep servers running for you to be able to play the game. Having a virtual world run as intended in a museum means more than just having it sit there. It means having internet access, right? Otherwise it's not playable. And ultimately, it means it must be playable by other players online, which means it doesn't belong in a museum. These restrictions legally are still the largest barrier in the US to virtual world preservation at the moment, and threaten any player-run world where explicit permission isn't granted by chance of the developer, or more importantly, the publisher. So the people running those servers currently, by default of wanting to preserve a game and a piece of history that they love and want others to experience, are technically doing something illegal, even when most of them do it for no profit at all. Shout out to those taking the risk, by the way, waiting for the law and market to catch up as always. Why does it matter to even keep these games live, or video games in general? Well, because historians and other people throughout history held on to parts of history and the world, and we were able to learn so much about the world that they lived in at the time. If we can properly maintain and preserve virtual worlds, we can see these worlds function in the future with much greater technology and capabilities at our fingertips. Save another Bronze Age world collapse, they could probably be around for a long time too, and then we can use them as inspiration or guidelines. Players often ask for features they believe to be unique or innovative, yet many of these features already exist or have existed before in old virtual worlds no longer in existence. If we can't properly preserve these worlds, you won't be able to properly learn what made them or their features unique or impressive fully. As a historian of sorts, or a detective historian, whatever you would like to call me, who plays and covers dead and dying games without private servers and emulation existing, I would have a much worse time and much worse content covering these games. Because of passionate fans who keep these games alive, I was able to, hopefully, do the games justice and highlight the community efforts to keep the game alive. So many people post on my video and express delight when they notice a community server for a dead game I covered is running, because they get a chance, even if small, to share some of what made the game special in the first place again. Keeping virtual worlds in a museum guarantees things like this can never really happen. The most bizarre and strong example of preserving virtual worlds, or examples I can boast, is games like classic WoW or old school RuneScape, where the community servers of these projects led to direct creations of official servers through sheer popularity and desire. Classic WoW is now about to launch its third expansion, or shall I say relaunch. Wrath of the Lich King is still sharing some great success from basically refurbishing their same virtual world again. The most entertaining and interesting part about the entire affair is that Blizzard defied fan expectation and desire and was even mocking concerning the idea of even doing a classic server in the first place. Meanwhile, private servers have existed for a decade up to that point and rivaled many live game servers in terms of player counts and activity. So, in the end, players did want the ability to play the classic version of WoW again, and there are very likely many more MMOs that players feel the same about. While not all of them will lead to the creation of official servers or recreations really, that shows the power and potential of not leaving virtual worlds in a museum. The strength of relying on fans and fan-made servers for preservation is since most of them are working for free and on pure passion, and that's a powerful creativity drive. Many fan-made servers operate better than live servers or bring virtual worlds into a more modern conversation even. The power of fan-made servers is really just that, powerful, even outside of making money for the same corporations again. Fans have a well-storied history spanning decades at this point of running servers and online virtual worlds better than developers do. It's kind of what's so unique about the industry. If you're wondering how you can support efforts to keep virtual worlds alive if you don't know how to develop, code, and so on and so forth, and you can't help in that respect, for starters you can participate in the many virtual worlds already existing and being propped up currently. The most prominent and okayed ones are EverQuest's Project 1999, Star Wars Galaxy's emulated server, and the City of Heroes Homecoming servers. But there are many more worlds to explore thanks to faithful fans, and I hope with continued legislation it will only get easier to do that. Second, let your voice be heard to developers and publishers of your favorite games even if they aren't dead already or dying. Let the team behind the games know that you're playing and love that you don't want a future where their art or their game experiences are lost forever. I fully support game preservation efforts, including further expanding qualifications for virtual worlds to properly function as intended. Ultimately, the only person in the equation who wouldn't want a virtual world to remain living or preserved is the person merely protecting its abandoned copyright or trademark for business purposes. And the only people who want virtual worlds to belong in a museum are the ones that don't understand anything about them. Thanks for watching, detectives.